Bronx. And he's like, I'm like, what's your porn name, Jimmy? He's like, well, it's not very good. From the Bronx. My porn name would be Bowser 134th Street. It doesn't necessarily work in all cities. But I guess I'll go with that would be my more interesting porn name. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, right there.
Hi, I'll try not to give you an existential crisis this time.
Okay.
Do you actually have a sweet tooth, or is it just an in-character thing?
It's an in-character thing. I'm not much of a sweet eater, which means I'm just a great actor. Yeah, I like sweets, don't get me wrong, I enjoy sweets. They're fine. But people give you that question, would you go with cheeses or chocolates? I'm always a cheese guy. I'm more of a non-sweet guy. Well, I mean, that sounds like a personality indictment. But you go to that. So it's more Gabriel, less Rich Speight. Why, thank you. I just got called savory. I am savory, as a matter of fact. When I order crepes, it's always from the savory side. Now you know a little bit about me. Thank you. You.
What was your favorite episode of Supernatural to film?
As a director or actor? Well, one of my favorite moments as a performer for Supernatural would have to be when I reveal to the boys that I'm Gabriel. Because that's such a cool moment in the sort of the arc of the story, one of the things that's kind of cool about what I've gotten to do in the show, and what Rob's gotten to do in Matt to a certain point, is we've had a phenomenal amount of great guest stars over the years. Phenomenal. This season included, we have unbelievable, many of whom are guests at conventions, many of whom haven't been to conventions but are great, and you've watched their work and love them. But I feel very fortunate to have been a part of the first 5 seasons. To have been a part of the cryptic vision of the show. I think that's really cool. And I also feel very, very blessed to have been directed by Ken Manners. That was a rare, at the time you didn't know it would be a fleeting opportunity. But I got, he's a legend. And the first 5 seasons of Supernatural are, the legendary bedrock upon which everything else is built. And I think it's really cool. And so I like being a part, I like that scene, because I like being a part of the mythology, the grand mythology of the show. I think it's really cool. In terms of my favorite episode, and I hold every episode near and dear to my heart, truly, especially the ones I direct. But for obvious reasons, if I had to pick a favorite, I would say Unfinished Business. Because of the challenge of directing an episode in which I was also the main guest star. Twice. That presented such an unusual series of challenges for me to tackle that it lives on for me as an unbelievable experience, from the camaraderie required to pull it off, to the challenge that they entrusted me with, to the caliber of the material. I thought it was great that they revisited that story. It never occurred to me that I would dust off that character and go back and tell some of his origin story. And I thought that was really, really great that I got to do that. And I thought it was really, really great the way they did it. I don't think it jumped the shark. I thought it made sense. They honored the original story while finding a way to get us back there to track what had happened and to bring Loki into the story. I thought so much of it was cool. And I always embed myself in what I'm doing acting-wise, and I do so as a director as well, and to have those two things intersect in such a impactful way was, I can only imagine, incredibly rare. I mean, I don't know how many people in the industry, anywhere in the world, in either medium, TV, film, or digital, have had the opportunity to direct themselves kicking their own ass. I just don't think there's a long list there. So that professional opportunity as a performer and as a director, and just the challenge that episode presented was monumental. So again, I have favorite moments in every episode, especially the directing ones. Everything I've directed, I literally hold. If you've been, those of you who've been to my, director Dig Chat conversations know that I can just go down the rabbit hole in a big way talking about this stuff. So I really do take it very seriously. But if I had to pick a favorite based on the opportunity that was presented to be an actor and a director in an episode, and the writing was great for the character, the writing was great to direct, it was just a win across the board. So I'd go with Unfinished Business. Thank you. Right there, you.
What?
You.
Yes, it's me. I was wondering, if you were God for a day, what new animal would you create?
If I was God for a day, well, for starters, if I was God for a day, I would not take Rob Benedict's calls because he would be so upset. You know what I don't do well with? Made up answers. That's not my thing. You're a kid.
Yes.
What would you do?
I don't know.
Yeah, welcome to my world. You thought of the question, what animal would you create?
A new animal. Yeah.
Ditto. Thanks for the question. Yeah.
So I know that you were in Driven, which I think is still making its way around film festivals.
Do me a solid and start over. And bring that speed to about 50 miles an hour.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
So I know that you were in Driven, which
Driven, yes.
is still making its way around film festivals.
Mm-hmm.
Are you planning on doing anything else similar, like short films and stuff like that?
Am I planning on acting in any short films? No, I didn't plan on doing Driven until they asked me to do it, and I saw the script and thought it was good. I don't really have a long-term plan in terms of working on other people's projects, because I don't know what they are. I'm very happy to have been a part of Driven, Driven is an independent film, not a short. It's actually a feature film made by two very talented people that I met at a film festival in Mississippi. And they wrote this great script that I thought was super clever. So I agreed to go do it. We shot it in their hometown. And the film is super fun and definitely worth seeing. And hopefully it'll find a distribution and you guys can check it out. Right now it's through the festival circuit. I'm pretty sure it's playing London right now, or this weekend, or soon. I love getting the opportunity to do cool projects with cool people. And sometimes that means you get paid, and that means you don't get paid, but you do it because you love what you do for a living. And I feel very fortunate to like my job enough to do it for free when I'm not doing it for money. And it was great to go work on a project that I cared about, and I cared about the people making it because it was just good. So, will I do another short film? Will I do another indie feature? If it's put in front of me and it's really good and the timing works out schedule-wise, I will. There's nothing in the hopper for that specifically, but I never turn down the opportunities to work with cool people on cool things when I can. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I was thinking, with your appearance in Metafiction, the episode Metafiction in mind, what is your... Because I know a lot of fans, after watching that episode, wanted Gabriel to come back. And now that in season 13 he has, what is your intake on the episode Metafiction? Was it real? Was it partly real? Or was it just on Metatrons?
I think it was all Metatron. Honestly, you asking the question and me answering it, that's how much thought I put into that, so I don't know. But just off the top of my head, I kind of think that was just a Metatron thing, because there's no correlation between where we found Gabriel later. If you think about it, where Gabriel reappeared and as Asmodeus's Asmodeus, man, tell you what, side note, I directed Stuck in the Middle with You. In that episode, Ramiel talks about the princes of hell. And he says, Asmodeus. And then we cast the guy And they're like, his name is Asmodeus. I'm like, well, his brother calls him Asmodeus. Like, well, now he's Asmodeus. And I'm like, oh man, that's inconsistent. So I was his name on by accident. So Asmodeus had Gabriel, entrapped, as it were. So I tend to think that the metafiction was just Metatron, doing his thing to fool Castiel, to try to get his way. Because I think the other story is so well thought out and so well tracked, and tracks all the way back to when we last saw Gabriel in season 5, that I find it hard to believe that he darted out to do one little thing with really short hair and a different wardrobe and then went back. Like, it just, so I'm going to lean into that. What about you? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I agree with it. It made a lot of sense, but after seeing that fiction, I just wanted them to do something with that. So I wanted Gabriel to be real in that episode, but then season 13 came along, well, that really wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and there's, but I think in a way that was structured. Pretty sure Robbie Thompson wrote that. I'm not sure, but it was a great episode, and I just think it was more structured for Metatron to be using the image of Gabriel to manipulate the situation. Thank you for the question. You right there. Hey.
So I'm going to grade 10 next year, and last year my whole class was forced to do a production of Shakespeare. And we had 4 days to rehearse, and we had to perform it in front of like 400 people, which was not a lot of time.
No.
And so I was wondering what the shortest amount of time you've had to prepare with like lines and walking is.
Well, sometimes it can be, like in the sitcom world, sometimes you get the script that day. So it's not uncommon if you're doing sitcoms to have them rewrite the script and give you pages even between takes. Because if you do the scene and they don't like it and the joke doesn't land, they will hammer out a new version of it and give you new pages. So I've never done a full play, in that time span. That sounds like it was more of an exercise and probably a good one for you guys to sharpen your wits. But it's not unusual to change things up on the fly and to have dialogue change and all that stuff. You over the years of doing this, you just become very good at memorizing lines. It just becomes part of your job capacity, your skill set. And so I'm pretty quick learner, and most of the people I know are. And so you run it a couple times, you can do it. And blocking usually makes sense with the line, so it becomes something that they become sort of intrinsically tied together. There's a logic to it. So learning them usually is something that you do as in one fell swoop, like the blocking and the line learning all happen together. I'm trying to think of if there's any major curveball that has ever been thrown at me in that regard. Not really. I mean, I think the biggest curveball in that regard that happens when you're an actor is auditions. It happens many, many, many times that you go to audition for something and you've spent time learning the lines and the material, and you get there and they say, we're not doing that, we're doing this, and you get 5 minutes and then you go in and do it. And in that case, you may or may not have it memorized. You might be referencing the pages in your hand, but it can still be very intimidating because you're trying to get a job and impress people and do performance level work while not really knowing the material. But that also, again, kind of sharpens your skill, because I think, I happen to really like doing things on my feet, and I didn't start out that way. I think I like that because I've done that a lot, and so it becomes fun, it becomes kind of a thrill, the fly by the seat of your pants nature to it. That kind of energy either crushes you or carries you. And, it can be intimidating, but nonetheless, that sort of energy can be upwardly mobile if you allow it. So, if you get to do that, again, with your school, which I think is kind of a really cool exercise, embrace the madness, which it seems like you did, and your classmates did. Because it seems like that would be a really cool challenge. I know people do 24-hour film festivals, where people shoot a film, cut the film, and then have to present it that night. And I always think that's really, really cool too. That's a cool, interesting challenge to do your best artistic work in a short amount of time. I was referencing that earlier Saturday when I came here, or at some point, that many years ago we directed we made a music video for a Loud and Swain song at the Vancouver convention several years ago. So if you Google bandaged hand and watch that music video. We shot that music video in 30 minutes in a warehouse behind the stage at a different convention center a couple years ago. We shot it, and then I cut it, and we screened it, and by the Sunday. So it was all done like in 48 hours. There's just something fun about doing that. There's pressure, and the audience watches, and when you're doing theater or you're auditioning, that's a different kind of pressure, but nonetheless, I feel something that can be stimulating and fun if you're allowed to be. So good luck with that. Are you doing another play this year?
I'm going to a performing arts high school, and then we're doing Mary Poppins.
Ah, nice. Well, good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello. I was watching Band of Brothers, and at the beginning, all were running up that hill. And I was wondering how many times you guys actually had to do that run.
Oh.
And when any of you tripped or fell, was that scripted or ad-libbed?
I cannot remember, to be honest, it's been a long time since we made that series, how many times we did it. But I can tell you it was a lot. Everything we did was a lot. That was a very physical job, so any battle sequence we did that was charging a hill or anything we did that was at all physical, we were doing a lot. And interestingly though, it's supposed to be Tacoma, Georgia, right, and hot. We were in London, England, and freezing our keisters off. So our hot summer training was freezing cold. Between takes, we did these giant warming coats. We'd be standing there and take them off in our tiny shorts. And no, all the falls and the vomiting also was all choreographed. Because otherwise, if somebody didn't know and you did a stumble, you might knock 5 dudes down and somebody could get hurt. You got to do it 20 times. But the fact that you asked that is good, because maybe it looked like we were actually tripping. So maybe, hopefully it's old. Yeah, it was all structured, so we do it the same way over and over and over again. And yeah, I have a tremendous amount of respect for those soldiers who did that in that Georgia heat, 3 miles up, 3 miles down, however many times a day they did it. I mean, unbelievable. I can't imagine. Pretending was hard enough. There's your answer. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hey.
Knowing everything that you know now and the person you've become, if you could go back to the very beginning of when you started all of this, is there any piece of advice you would give yourself or anything you would say?
So, knowing the person I've become, but I go back to the beginning of working on Supernatural, or going back to the beginning of what?
Yeah.
Going back to the work on Supernatural,
Yeah.
would I give myself any advice? Yeah. I think I would have been less scared of conventions because I was petrified to do them when I started, because I'd never been to one. I've only been to a convention as a guest. I'd never been to one as a fan, and I didn't understand what a convention was, or I knew logically what a convention was, but I didn't understand why I would be a guest at one. I had done 2 episodes of TV in the genre, and I got invited to a convention, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I just turned the first couple of them down because they just didn't make any sense to me. Why somebody would know my work from 2 episodes of television. I had this image of, and I reference this a lot, if you've ever seen the movie The Wrestler, I felt like I was going to be Mickey Rourke in the gymnasium sitting behind a folding table with people kind of meandering past, and it sounded dismally depressing, so I didn't know what to expect, and what I did expect filled me with dread. So I was hesitant to get involved, so I would be able to tell myself not to worry, it's going to be okay. I would also go back. I didn't know. I've done a lot of TV in my day. None of it has had the sort of crazy shelf life this show has in terms of fan art, art sanctioned by the networks, photos, trading cards. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole subculture of art associated with the show, and products and knickknacks and swag that I didn't know would exist. And I remember thinking, during the second episode I did, which was it's a fun house, Mr. Speight. My wife was pregnant, and I followed her right down the eat everything rabbit hole. And I ballooned at an alarming rate. And then Supernatural called and said, "Do you want to do another episode?" And they had to like unhem the Gabriel pants for me to wear. Truly, I mean, like if you've been, you want to be a team player. We already had one kid and our second baby, and I was kind of being right in there, eating everything my wife wanted to eat, and not really exercising. Anyway, it wasn't my finest year physically, and I remember, here's how it is, because your spouse is always your biggest supporter and kind of blindly says, "No, you're great." And I remember we watched the episode when it came out, and I remember thinking, I kind of look, in my mind I'm going, I look bloated. And I came on one scene, it was a close-up, and I literally heard my wife go, "Oh God." Struggle by the plot, or what do we? She's like, "Oh, I'm like, do I look puffy to you? Because I look puffy to me." It's the TV. We have the TV set up puffy, and then you're set. And she's like, "Yeah, no, it's not. We should run. We should exercise." Like, "Yeah, we should. We should. Yeah, we should. You should have a baby. I'll run." And so, what? Why, thank you, full of shit person. So the reason I bring that up is because that's the first 2 episodes I'd done, right? And I'd never done a convention. Suddenly, that's the episode everybody made cards of. Suddenly it's me with a steak on these cards. I'm like, "Oh no!" Shiny things like I said, "I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Oh man, sure." Now I'm puffy and I look bloated. I mean, I'm sweating out chocolate. I mean, you just and so I think I would tell myself, motivate, man. Keep moving. You're gonna be. Turns out this is gonna be a thing. There are gonna be shirts. There are gonna be throw pillows. There's gonna be other crap with your face on it. Do your work. Do what you're doing. That's all fine. But also, don't be sedentary. It doesn't sit well on you. So I think I would warn myself about the onslaught of products that were going to feature me. So there you go. Thank you.
I'm wondering, what was your favorite scene or episode to watch or create in Kings of Con?
Oh, Kings of Con, favorite scene to watch or create. Well, so much of that was fun. Rob and I had a great time writing it. Genuinely made ourselves laugh writing the script. It was fun to shoot, but it was especially fun to shoot scenes I wasn't in. Because then I could just focus on doing that other job and watching the performances. And I know Rob, you guys know Rob is God on television and other shows he's probably done, that you've probably seen that he's done. And you see, does the subtle nuances of the character God really well. But flat out, he's one of the funniest actors I've ever seen when he's doing comedy. He's just incredibly gifted at doing comedy, honestly. He's just, when I say comedy, honestly, I mean he does comedy honestly. He plays it so honestly that you just laugh. I don't like fake, I don't like forced. I enjoy people who can, play jokes in a grounded way that makes it seem character-driven, not going for laughs. He does a really great job at that. And so, to that point, there's the scene in Kings of Con where Kent O'Grady has Rob in his hotel room and is trying to get Rob, first he's trying to commit suicide and have Rob watch, and then he's had Rob, the whole thing about his backstory, and he basically starts hitting on Rob, sort of subtle way. And I was watching that, I was laughing so loud that I was ruining takes because I was watching the monitor. And when he has Rob pinned up against the wall, man, I was laughing so hard. It was so funny. Josh Myers, who's in that, is also just hilarious, and they were so funny together. I loved watching that, and so that, for one, was one of my favorites. And then watching Rob in the sauna with Ron Livingston. was just so funny. I mean, Ron Livingston also just dries a bone funny. So funny. And Ron came in, and Ron's like, I got a mustache. I want to keep it. I'm like, I love the mustache. Lyle is the mustache. I love it. And just having those two dudes sit there and do those scenes together was so funny. So I'd say Rob and Ron and Rob and Josh in those two various scenes. Super fun. Do you have a favorite? You have a favorite scene? You go, oh, this is my favorite scene from the show.
Yeah, I actually have two. One is just like when you guys are getting ready for like the talent show, and Matt just comes out and it's just like, have fun following Push Up Paradise or something like that. Like it just kills me every time.
Right.
And then my other one is like when you enter the room and you're like, what's up guys? And everyone cheers, and then Rob comes in after you and he's like, what's up guys? And it's just like silent.
Yeah. What a funny show. I mean, I'm proud of that show. I'm proud of that. What that show. It's fun if for you guys, your painting and your fiction and your drawings and your stitching, your clay work, if that's your fan art, Kings of Con is my fan art. That was our tribute to our experience here. And I truly love it and am proud of how it turned out. Thank you. Hi.
Hello. So earlier Jensen was telling us that there's a song for an episode that he's directing that he's trying to get in the episode, and I was wondering, has there been a song that you were fighting to get into an episode that you directed? And if there isn't, would you take a request?
Well, I got Staying Alive in an episode last year. When in the optimism episode, so that was a challenge because that ain't free. So that's part of the fighting is like, can we afford it? Can we get it? And I thought it really made that sequence fun to have that song in there. I think that's the only big expensive number. We put some songs in there that's stuck in the middle of you for the opening sequence, the opening teaser. It's got some really great music that we paid licensing for that was perfect. But John Fitzpatrick, the editor, found that music. I also happen to really love, I can't remember the title of the song, I have it on my phone somewhere, but there's a scene in Twigs, Twine, and Tasha Baines, which is the stick figure one I directed, where when the twin brother is reanimating his twin sister, Jimmy Pickle, one of the other editors, found this phenomenal song that he'd had for years sitting in his edit bay that he wanted the right scene for, and it fit perfectly. It's by a guy named Seasick Steve, which is a bizarre name. Hold on, I'm going to tell you the name of the song because the whole song is worth getting. Hold on a second, let me just look this up. It did this right way. I know Seasick Steve doesn't sound like a class act, but I promise you. Hold on a second. C16, come on now. The song, In Peaceful Dreams. C6 Steve, In Peaceful Dreams. It's just beautiful. If you like the Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack type, it's that kind of folksy, gravelly, simplistic, but beautiful song that we use while he's reanimating his sister, and I love the song, and I think it makes that sequence phenomenal. So that's not necessarily the song I was writing for, but it's a song that was discovered that we then went out and got because it was so perfect. Now, what is your suggestion?
Before the show ends, I'd really like Iron Maiden's Fear of the Dark. Yeah.
I'll make a note. I don't know that song, so I'll have to listen to it, but I will genuinely make a note. It's called Fear of the Dark?
Iron Maiden.
All right. No taking, young lady. No taking.
Thank you.
Hold on, I'm telling myself this. I'm going to text you. Iron Maiden, Fear of the Dark. Now, listen, here's how I make notes. A lot of times I just text them to myself. That way I know I have them. Sometimes, if I'm on stage, or doing something else, and I want to scroll through and find my own thing, I text the first person I have up here, and probably confuse them, but at least I have it. So Alex Talbert just got a text. And I ran to the dark, and he literally just texted back while I was talking, going, "Can't help you." I respond, "Don't sweat it. I was just making a note for myself of a cool song that a fan suggested during my panel, period. In fact, I'm still doing my panel, texting this to you right now. Ha ha." When I point to you, say, "Hi, Alex." And now, Alex, and there you go. And he says, "You're too cool." All right. Thank you for the note, and I guess Alex does too. There, right there.
So I was wondering, as the trickster, if you could go back to changing channels, what TV show would you put the Winchesters into in TV land?
This is a classic question that I haven't gotten in a while. I always thought it would be fun to put them in Judge Judy. Just because I feel like Judy don't take no shit. Smack those boys down a bit. Teletubbies, it'd be fun to have them in Teletubbies. I thought it'd be really fun to have them in The Simpsons. Although I know they've already been animated, but now maybe a better place to have them was maybe in one of their drives, they just pull over and grab, because they go to diners a lot, maybe just pull over and they go to Bob's Burgers. They just have a sandwich. Bob's Burgers. Live TV, I know people say Game of Thrones. I haven't, I don't know about that one, but at Peaky Blinders, Jensen Ken already did. The Bachelor. The what? No. I didn't hear what you said. The Bachelor. I don't watch The Bachelor, but Rob does. Rob watches everything shitty, so he watches all that stuff.
A Handmaid's Tale.
What?
A Handmaid's Tale.
She said a
Twin
Handmaid's
Peaks?
Tale.
I haven't seen Twin Peaks. The X-Files. Yeah. There's got to be something like the fun of putting them in a show. Like, it was great watching Jared's genitals get mutilated. That was fun, right? Getting hit over and over again in the crotch. That was great. Putting them in situations where they're sort of knocked down a peg is kind of cool. How about Naked and Afraid, or whatever that is? Isn't there a show about being in the wild nude? Yeah. You get some ratings. Speaking of Naked and Afraid, Robert Innick, everybody. Anyway, I'll stick with Judge Judy. I'll end on a high note. Last week, is Norton going out, or is it just...
Yeah, he's going.
All right. You.
Hi.
Give me a minute, Rich. That way, but I want to share what my, porn name would be, because I think it would suit with this whole fandom.
Okay.
Seeing as I lived all over BC, I'm just going to go with the one I'm living on now. And my main favorite pet, as I have a few, would be Impala River Road.
Impala River Road.
My cat is named Impala, sleek, black, golden eyes, and a purr that you could hear the next room over.
Nice. Well done.
The other cat is Hemi after the engine, though he doesn't sound like a Hemi, unfortunately. He's too early.
Oh, well.
My question would be, for changing channels again, there was a little snippet in there that played homage to one of my favorite classic TV shows, Knight Rider, whose idea was to put the sort of like Impala Kit, or the Sam Kit Impala.
Oh, I'm sure that had to be, that episode was written by Jeremy Carver. I'm sure that was Jeremy Carver's idea. you know, at that point I had zero input on the show beyond my playing the character. But that show was really, really, really well directed. Charles Beeson, who, you know, did multiple genres in one show, and really, really, really well written by Jeremy Carver. So I'm sure it was Carver's idea, and Beeson executed it really, really well. So I'm glad you liked that bit. Thank you. One last question over here. Hi.
I was wondering, where's the weirdest place you've been recognized?
The weirdest place, what? I've been recognized by fans. I was just telling Rob, this was interesting. I was in the bank last week, which I know is not the weirdest place to get recognized, but I thought this was interesting. I was in the bank and I was talking to the teller, and the teller goes, "Excuse me, aren't you the guy from Kings of Con?" And I thought that was a trip. And I said, "Well, yes, I'm Rob Benedict." Thank you for your question. And boys, they're out here. Real quickly, before we do what we do, Skippy Griffin or Ski Greenwood? Glenwood. Ski, what was your porn name?
Ski Glenwood.
Ski Glenwood.
Skippy Griffin
Steve,
is Matt.
Your porn name is name of your pet and the street you grew up on.
Lucky.
First pet.
First pet, yeah, first pet.
Well, first pet. My first pet was a girl, so it'd be Countess 76.
So Countess is your first name. What was the street? Countess.
76.
You grew up on
76th Street?
Yeah, 76.
So Countess 76. That's freaking dirty.
Countess 76th Street. I mean, I'm renting that VHS. Ladies and gentlemen. I just said ladies and gentlemen. Oh, man. Because they're here, that means my panel's over. And because Rob's strumming that guitar, it means it's the end of our time on stage. So, we've had an amazing weekend. It's been fantastic. We're going to get
Liz, can we get the acoustic guitar?
Liz, can you give us a little guitar?
There we go.
We got it.
Guitar was turned down. That one's on me, Liz.
Hang on his face. So, if you've never been to a convention, this is what we do at the end. If you have been to a convention, you know what we're going to do, and we want you to do it with us. It is always a treat to see you people. It has been especially lovely this weekend, in this city, in this year, given the season of television we're doing. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for having us.